Hey you guys, it's Britt. Tonight we're here to talk about Colleen Ballinger being invited to the Teatime Podcast with Raven and Miranda. Those are the hosts' name. We're not even into the Miranda Sings thing, but it is a topic on this podcast. She had quite a few things to say. I did listen to it, and I have 3 pages of notes, so we're going to chat for a few. If you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys, so if you're not sure about who Colleen is and her problematic history on the internet as a whole with her underage fans and why she was canceled, y'all know I hate that word. It's called accountability. It's not being canceled. But I have a whole playlist all about it. It's called Beyond Drama because that is, in fact, what it is. It went far outside your normal, ooh, this is shady, let's get a little snarky. It was very, very real. And I have a whole playlist. So if you're interested, you can check that out. This video will also be on the same playlist, but let's just start at the top. So she goes on to this podcast that's hosted by Raven Simone. She was a child actor. I remember her. I'm pretty sure she was in The Cosby Show, and she had a show called That's So Raven. I didn't watch That's So Raven, but I remember her from her being in The Cosby Show. This podcast is hosted by Raven and her partner. I'm not sure if it's her partner or her spouse. Her name is Miranda. So they run this podcast, and of all the people in the world, they decided to give their platform to Colleen Ballinger with a podcast titled Exclusive. Colleen Ballinger Tells Her Side. To me, the title automatically came off as a bit like almost as if it was mocking the people that came forward to share their experiences having dealt with Colleen. It's almost like oh, well, now she's going to tell her side. It took some of these people that came forth with their experiences a lot of courage, a lot of wanting to be transparent and having to work up to the mentality to be able to share their stories. So I felt like right out of the gate, aside from platforming her, the title did not sit well with me. The intro to the podcast, Miranda says that Colleen went through what was one of the biggest cancellations we've seen in a while. And that just, circles back to what I just said. Let's stop calling it being canceled. Let's stop calling it, oh, I was canceled for an opinion. What happened with Colleen was so far outside of people just not liking you or being upset with you for a moment in time, even though it wasn't that serious. We can throw something like, oh, you're canceled on more lighthearted things. This is just my thoughts and opinions. But when we're throwing it on a full-grown adult being inappropriate with her minor fan base, you're not being canceled. You are hopefully going to be held accountable, which still hasn't happened. More on that in a few minutes. But it wasn't a cancellation. Raven then chimes in and says that they've decided to do this podcast episode now as opposed to previously because she feels like enough time has passed where learning and growing and becoming a better version of yourself, she feels like Colleen is now at that point. Spoiler, she's not. But that was their explanation as to why it was happening now and not previously. She also claims that they want to share the human side of the story. So are you saying that victims that came forward sharing their experience were not the human side of the story? Because now you're saying that you're going to share the human side of the story. Again, just to me, very demeaning, very much diminishing what these people had experienced because of Colleen doing or saying what she did to them. Colleen also does share that she now thinks of things differently since becoming a mother to 3 children. She says that she wishes that she would have had this perspective, before becoming a mom. But The issue that I have with that is it's called common sense. It's called common decency. It's called having a moral compass. It's called being a full-grown adult and not being inappropriate with any minor in any way, shape, or form. No matter if they are a fan, your neighbor, your cousin's friend, why is that so difficult to grasp? But now you're saying because you're a mom, you're looking at it differently. And may we never forget, she has gone on to exploit her own children to try to remain somewhat relevant. She is literally trying to remain relevant and get clicks by sharing her children with the dangerous people that exist on social media. She knows that they're out there. She herself is inappropriate in some ways, and she is dishing her children out for those people, knowing that they are out there just so that she can hang on to any form of being relevant and collecting a check from social media. Early on in this episode, she does blame herself, but I found it interesting because there were a common set of words that were used in this episode that I don't really think were true. Things like mistakes, learning, growing. You can blame yourself, but if you're going to come on and repeat these same words, but you have not really shown anyone a whole lot of that, then what are we talking about? They then get into this section of the podcast where they talk about Miranda Sings, how Miranda was created, where she came from, so on and so forth. One of the issues that I've had along, this entire time covering Colleen is that she has consistently utilized Miranda as a comedian and calls the Miranda content comedy, but you know for a fact that Miranda is not just being funny. Miranda is extremely inappropriate. She, was being shown to children. You knew about it. More on that in a few minutes. But I don't like this whole I can do whatever I want in the character Miranda and just say that it's just comedy. And if it was distasteful or gross, then you don't understand comedy. Colleen does say that she mentally feels like somebody in their mid to late 20s or maybe younger. I think that is spot on. You can look at her entire history on YouTube especially and see that this is somebody who is extremely immature, extremely just out of touch. She is a grown woman that will still laugh at a fart joke. It's giving middle school weirdo vibes. Colleen also tries to make the claim that people that were coming to her live shows where she would perform as Miranda, they started to really embrace the character. And she claims that some people even came up to her saying that Miranda inspired them. I want to take a quick kind of detour here and let's talk for a minute about one of the many books that Colleen Ballinger has published. There was a book that she published under the cover of Miranda called the Self-Help Book. There were typos because it's supposed to be some kind of spelling error joke. I don't know. But the things in that book are so far outside of even dark humor. I'm going to insert some screenshots. Y'all can pause to kind of read what was in this book, but it heavily teetered on inappropriate relationships with her uncle. It talked about, private areas. It talked about how to remove urine stains from underwear. And I don't know in what world, number one, what kind of person would come up with these ideas. Secondly, call it comedy. And let's also talk about the people that she had around her that were applauding this book being published, knowing for a fact that there were young people attending her live shows and watching Miranda on YouTube. More on the kids that were watching her perform as Miranda on YouTube and attending these live shows. She wants to claim that Miranda was for adults. It was never meant for kids. But and I've said this probably, 42 times now, as somebody who is creating a brand, you are well aware of who is buying tickets to your shows, what kind of people are watching your channel, what kind of people you are retaining interest from. You have open access to all of that. So I don't want to hear, well, Miranda was for adults. Not my fault if the kids, want to come to the shows and watch all my videos and make me a super rich YouTuber. That's not my problem. And that's the path that she has taken for years now when it comes to how grotesque and inappropriate Miranda is. Now, Raven, again, the podcast host, really gives Colleen this huge victim card numerous times during this episode. She claims that the accusations that were brought against Colleen were, that's why you were canceled over them and the rug was pulled from under her, just really making her out to be this innocent little person that was unfairly targeted by the mean people of the internet. And to know that she has that stance, number one, it doesn't surprise me because I don't think that she is somebody that I would align with kind of socially or having a similar perspective. She seems very unintelligent and dumb in some ways, just the fact that she posted this podcast and invited Colleen to come on it. But the rug was not pulled out from under her. The truth came out and accountability was in her face. She still hasn't taken it, in my opinion. She owes private and public apologies to everybody that she negatively impacted. And that has still not happened. We get a ukulele video, we get a bunch of doubling down, we get talking about how it's just comedy and you don't get it. We still don't have full accountability. Colleen then goes into how she realized that her audience was changing from an adult audience to include teens, and she didn't change anything about Miranda, knowing who was watching her because that's what they liked and that's what she liked. So again, she already knew who was watching Miranda, but this proves you knew that minors were watching you and you still continued the same shtick because you were getting millions of views off of it. She also admits that she did not adjust her interactions with her fans knowing they were teens because she had just addressed, yes, they were teens. She claimed that it was because she was so real and authentic to her fans. She never thought of a power dynamic. She talked to them because in her mind and in these teenagers' minds, everyone was friends. We're all cordial. We're here to talk. What she fails to mention, again, because everything is smoke and mirrors with Colleen, there were many times where she would talk to her minor fans about things having to do with sex, like her favorite positions, complimenting their bodies, that goes to Adam McIntyre, and topics having to do with her ex-husband, Joshua David Evans. On top of it, she was also bullying other people behind the scenes to these young fans that were going back and forth with her. She, as the adult in the room, was being grossly inappropriate and also bullying people that she felt like they weren't in her corner, they weren't doing what she wanted them to do, so she was also participating in a lot of bullying. Raven at this point in the podcast chimes in and basically tries to blame Colleen Ballinger not having a team around her for everything that unfolded. I don't believe that as an adult, if you have a functioning moral compass and your brain cells are, working as they should not have to have a team around you to tell you that talking about sexually related topics to minors in DMs Like, what are we doing? You're expecting a team to tell you that that's wrong? You don't do that? If you can't do that on your own, then you need to have your Wi-Fi disconnected and your channel shut down. Colleen also claims that people were lying about her so much that it outweighed her ability to address the truths that were being said. I find that to be complete BS, nonsense. She also says that she is denying the being a groomer entirely. She also claims that she really shut down when grooming entered the conversation that was being had about her, because I guess everything else was not enough for her to wake up. She decided to shut down when it came down to grooming and then come back with her ukulele toxic gossip train video, and that was her blueprint of the day. Speaking of the toxic gossip train, shit show that happened with that, she claims that she shouldn't have made the video. However, if you don't think you should have made the video and you disagree with it so much, why is it still on your channel after this podcast was posted in November of 2025? I will put the screenshot right here. It is literally the top viewed video on her Colleen Vlogs channel, and it is still posted. Anyone can view it. Anyone can watch it. You disagree with it so much and you felt like you did the wrong thing by making that video. I call bullshit. Raven also shared that, like Colleen, she has zero integrity because she was laughing at the video. She was laughing at Toxic Gossip Train. She thought that it was just so funny that she had to tell Colleen herself that she was laughing at the video. Imagine thinking that, of all things, is what you're going to come out and say, you know what, I thought that was so funny. Girl, I was laughing my ass off. That is embarrassing. Raven and her co-host also blamed being fed up, angry, and upset as to why the Toxic Gossip Train video was filmed and posted to begin with. Again, giving Colleen this, here's your victim card, here's your excuse, we understand, we have sympathy for you. It was, just a big misunderstanding. You were fed up. How do you think the people that she negatively interacted with felt? Did you ever think of that? We are literally talking about minors, and you are giving your sympathy to her? Here in the podcast is where they talk about Becky. I've talked about Becky before on this channel, but basically what happened with Becky was she was at one of Colleen's live shows. She was brought up on stage to do what Colleen calls a silly yoga skit. And she was basically humiliated on stage when she was participating and ended up having a loud fart sound echoed through the entire auditorium and everybody in the crowd laughing at her along with Colleen. So she was the butt of the joke. She was embarrassed. She was triggered and she was humiliated, all for Colleen to be able to laugh at her. And all of this time later, she calls it a silly yoga joke and claims that it's crass humor. Again, unteachable, does not care, cannot learn a thing, even if it's literally sitting right in her face. She refuses to learn. One of the things that I found somewhat interesting in this episode is that Colleen only shows emotion, whether that's taking a pause or crying or acting like she's about to show some kind of emotion of sadness. She only shows that if it's being talked about like, oh, well, I have pity. I felt sorry for myself. My feelings were hurt. My channel was being canceled. People were mad at me. It's never emotion for the people that she hurt. So she can save her pity party. My final thoughts on this is shame on Raven and Miranda and anyone that liked this video or left a positive comment. I hope that this follows y'all for a very, very long time, because you see how no other podcasts are inviting Colleen Ballinger to come on and hand her a victim card and say, we are here for you. we're going to say that the rug was pulled out from under you, and we're just going to have some understanding for Colleen. That's not what's going to happen on this channel, and I'm glad that people were being loud in the comments. But as I've said, this will be on the Beyond Drama playlist if you want to catch up, or if you're curious or you just need something to watch for a little while. It is quite the rabbit hole, and here we are all this time later, and we still have this lady who is a whole ass adult proving that she is unteachable and a constant victim in scenarios that she created. But I've had enough for tonight. So if you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.